Only suckers pay full retail for real estate. Today, we're going to show you a secret spot where houses at tax deed sales are selling up to 8 below market value. In fact, we have an example here, 87%. Yesterday, we were looking at tax deeds over the counter that were available for $150 that were worth a couple $1,000s. Now, all this sounds probably perhaps a bit intriguing, but we also want to talk about how to avoid the absolute landmines that can devastate one of these deals. There's nothing worse than thinking you have a good deal only to find out there is a hidden risk on this property that could cost you 20 to 40, 50,000 bucks. Dustin Hahn here. What we're going to do on this channel is we show you how to buy off-market government tax seized properties for sometimes 80, 90% below market value. And we break it down. We have, I think, over 3,700 videos here on this channel and lead the industry. And for everybody that tunes in, we give away a free gift called the ABCs of Tax Lien and Deed Investing in the description below to help you guys get started in doing this. So yesterday was a good day. We talked about an OTC mobile home that sold for $2. A guy bought it and then put $500 into cleaning it up and then sold it for $15,000 cash, which is pretty cool. Now, is that every deal? No. However, only in tax deed investing is an opportunity to get into real estate at sometimes such a big discount that people won't believe you. And in fact, if you're watching this right now, there's a chance you think this is not true. If it's so good to be true, why are these guys teaching it? Blah, blah, blah. They're just selling courses, this and that, which brings me to my disclaimer that we're here today is obviously investing involves risk. This is not a get rich quick pill that you swallow. This isn't a guaranteed path. Everything that we're going to talk about here and show you where these deals are, it does require a little bit of elbow grease, but we can reduce that with AI. I think one of the biggest things here is the fact that you can get into real estate with limited risks. If you want to spend a couple $100s on an over-the-counter tax deed, you can do that. If you want to buy a property for 20 grand that could be worth 30, 40, 50, or 100, there is an opportunity to do that as well. So we want to walk you through it. We're going to bring in the auction master himself here, Mr. Josh Blanchard. How are you doing today, Josh?
Hey, I'm doing good. Excited to dive in and show the good people some deals today.
As we go based on where you are. Perfect. You want to join the challenge? Follow along today with us to get a glimpse of how we do this stuff in the real world. And then from there, you guys can go do it as well. And it's a ton of fun. Once you crack the seal and get your first deal, you can prove to yourself that this could be perhaps a way out of your job. For me, my story, Josh and I were both working on oil rigs, hating life, miserable, blowing all our money on stupid stuff. I'll speak for myself. I don't know about Josh. No, I do.
No, it's accurate.
But this is a good business to get into if you feel like you're behind when it comes to getting started in real estate. Let's just get right to it. So we have a property here that sold for 87% below market value. We're going to highlight this, but remember, all of the lessons here today can be applied in other states, in your own backyard, if there's deals available. We're going to show our screen here as well. And remember, this is all public information that we are showing on the screen. We're not revealing people's secret details and all that sort of stuff.
Selling real estate at the opening bid of taxes. So the homeowner has not paid their taxes. That's how it ends up on this website. And I was speaking to someone recently. They said there were no deals at the past auction. So August 7th, there was a whole bunch of sales. And one of the things that we mentioned before is that sometimes it'll feel like everything's getting bid up or there were no deals, but the data doesn't lie. So we had AI go through all of these auctions for August 7th to showcase the best deals. And so I'm going to show you the first one right here. This is 817 Isham Street in Owasso. So this had an opening bid of $7 grand and it ended up selling for $17,250. And so when we pull this property up on Zillow, we've got a estimate of about $135,000. And then upon further research, we're looking in that $120,000 to $140,000 range. And when we read the description here, it talks about that somebody started to do this construction project themselves and they weren't doing a good job. So you've pretty much got a property that you're going to do a rehab on. And if you use an aggressive formula for profit, you could, so for the numbers that this individual bought it for, they can put about $70,000 into this property and still make a huge amount. It was a really good buy. The second one, and so there was four or five different counties here happening on the 7th. The second one is this one right here for 20 grand. So the SEV, that would be the county assessed value. It's about half of the real value. It's $43,000. And so this one, we're showing $137,000. It's estimate. So they picked it up for 20 grand and worth, yeah, way, way more. And so the other thing too, I'm just trying to remember here, trying to see if it was occupied or not. One of these was occupied. So this property is occupied. So the thing is, they're into it for 20 grand. They could start collecting rent right away, which is wild. And so if you were looking to get real estate in the area, like on Zillow or something, and pay full market, pay retail, you're going to be paying way, way more than that. And so maybe they start collecting $1,000 a month in rent, or 12,000 or $1,200 a month in rent, and you can recoup your investment within the first 2 years, and so talking about this, taxsale.info websites, this is available and open to everybody. So if we go and look at upcoming auctions, there's a whole bunch happening in 2 days. You got the 13th, then you got the 14th, you got the 18th. And so we did showcase some of the best deals, but at the same time, there was a lot of people who overbid on properties as well. And if you say to yourself, you know what, I'm looking to buy something, I don't have 80 grand to do a remodel, or I live in California, I don't want to do a fix and flip in Michigan, that makes perfect sense. And we wouldn't recommend that you would do one. And so what happens is when you have enough budget for the contractor to come in and fix and flip it and make a profit, you can easily find a buyer. A lot of times you'll see people selling property too high, and there's not enough profit for the contractor. There's not enough profit for the fix and flipper. And so when you buy it and there's enough profit for everybody, you can make a profit for yourself, sell it easily, sell it quickly, put it on the market, and move it. So 4 really good deals, really good opportunities. And this was not in the past. So anybody who says in the comments that all of this stuff gets bid up to market value, that it's overpriced, here's 4 really good examples from just 4 days ago.
Okay. So yeah, Joseph is in Phoenix. And remember, Phoenix is tax lien auctions where you get an interest rate. I think Phoenix is 16, Arizona is 16%. There are tons of good online infrastructures there. We got T coming in here in Tennessee. We appreciate that. Tennessee often does tax deeds. Josh went to school there, so we're familiar with that as well. A lot of these do them year round. Who else? We got Robert coming in Georgia. Georgia's great. Or sorry. Yeah. Robin, Georgia, Houston County. What am I reading here? Oh, Warner Robins, Georgia. Wow, I'm totally mixed up. But we know in Georgia, the sales are the first Tuesday of every month. So there are tons of good sales happening there. Boston. So Boston, obviously, some good action. Often late spring in Boston, Massachusetts, does a lot of tax liens as well. So you can get involved the best ones. Let's see here. Who else we got? Research, watch the auctions, keep learning, starting with properties close enough to drive by. Yeah. So there's going to be lots of these in your backyard, which is great. So let's talk about some of the biggest mistakes that rookies make when they're getting into this. So one of the biggest mistakes people make is it's on the things that you don't see on upfront, which are often municipal liens, like grass cutting liens, trash removal. Like we've seen grass cutting liens $30,000-$40,000, right? So if you find an over-the-counter property for a couple $100, maybe it's not uncommon sometimes for there to be a $300 property with a $30,000 grass cutting lien on it. So remember, we love tax deeds because it wipes out the mortgage, which is huge. You hear the term free and clear real estate, and we love them. However, sometimes these come with liens. Now, because the tax deed wipes out every other lien, that's great. But remember, a city lien or the county's not going to wipe out their own lien. So it's very important to check with that. However, if you see a property for $300 or $100, maybe it's worth $10,000 with a $20,000 lien, you can simply call the county assessor or the city office and say to them, listen, this property's been sitting vacant. Nobody's ever going to buy this thing with this much outstanding on the tax lien. So why don't we do this? And I went to them, talked to them. They removed the lien. I bought it for $50 and away we go. So Josh, what are some things there in a second? Share some of your biggest dangers to avoid. Welcome everybody who's just joining us here today. Ask any questions you have. If you're on the challenge, let me know how many counties you called yesterday to avoid.
Yeah. Anytime you buy a house at a tax deed sale or any kind of auction, often people forget to insure their property. So to get something like vacant property insurance. And we've had many claims before with vacant property insurance, and it saved our butt a ton of times. We had a fix and flip project where we had like $75,000 claim. And so if we didn't have vacant property insurance on it, we wouldn't have been able to get that money. And so it does boggle my mind that someone would be willing to drop $30,000 or $40,000, 50 or 100 grand on a house and then not spend the $800 to insure the property. So that's one of the biggest things because anything could happen after. Let's say you have a previous homeowner, they lost the house and things are a bit unstable in their life. They could always come back and they could damage the property. Or if there's a natural disaster, if those are common in the area, tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding. But yeah, if you buy a property in a flood zone and you are aware of that and so you've got the budget for it and everything makes sense, but you don't get insurance on it and then something happens, you could be at that money. So that's a really big one that's often overlooked. And then as Dustin mentioned before about the code enforcement or municipal liens, it's also important to see if the county has any orders in place for the moment. An example could be you want to buy a property and it's in pretty terrible shape and you can get it for really cheap, let's say 5-10 cents on the dollar. But if the county has already addressed the property and they say you have to make repairs or we're going to demolish it, that could be a potential headache. Let's say someone has $10,000 and they buy something for $10,000. And then after they find out that the county is requiring them to get an engineer to do XYZ, or they're going to demolish the house in 60 days, that's a lot of stress. And so you want to know about that on the front end. Because from a numbers perspective, everything can look really good, but it's important to check title, of course, and then also check code enforcement. Sometimes code enforcement is within title. Other times it's external and you have to actually go to two different websites, one for the code enforcement and then one for the history of the title of the property. So those are two really big things that often are not talked about. And so if you miss those two things, you could lose your money. And even if you're into the deal for a small amount, you might inherit a ton of stress that you could have avoided if you did those two things at the beginning.
Let's see. Somebody's saying looking for a mentor on the upcoming auctions in 2 weeks. Is that something? Yeah. So for anybody, if you have an auction coming up, we can talk to you about it. We do build personalized blueprints called the deed blueprint. If you want, you guys can also book a free call and we'll just show you where to go. We'll list out for you 8 places and you can schedule a call and we can chat. And if you want some help with AI or going to an auction, we can do that as well. So what are the risks of buying land? Is the redemption period, let's see, what are the risks of buying land still in the redemption period? System. Now, obviously a word to the wise. This, once again, the disclaimer on this stuff is don't be looking for a lottery ticket. Don't risk your family's food or rent on this stuff. Work a little bit of overtime. If you're in that position where you're struggling to pay your rent or you need a Hail Mary to buy groceries, don't put that into this. So that's my 2 cents. Welcome everybody who's joining us here right now. We're having a good time here today. If you like this stuff, guys, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, simple. When we get off here today, crack open the free directory, call them, ask when the sale is with the phone number. Every time you guys come, I'm going to say this 1,000 times because it's really the easiest way to start. So any questions you have, pop them in there. Let's see, Josh, you have your screen up to show some stuff?
So that would be my recommendation is start to get photos, market it. You could use AI to help you with a listing description, get a realtor if you want, or you can just sell it yourself without a realtor. You got all kinds of, all right, picked it up for 4,300 comps in the area, 18 to 25. That's awesome. So we're looking at 14 to 20 grand in profit on 4,300,
Nice.
which is insane. That's incredible.
So
Well
what's
done.
fun? Josh, is so many people are obviously skeptical of this business, and you should be, right? This is the internet. You should be skeptical of everything these days. And then, especially with all of the AI slop that's out there, you don't know. Josh gets this at options. I'm being satire here for anybody. These guys just think through all that. We never started out ever even planning to have a channel. In fact, the only place we'll get recognized is if we go to a tax auction. And one time I got of all the places I got recognized in Jamaica once, which was pretty funny.
That is
But
wild.
for what we're here to do is our goal is to provide the tax lien and deed community with the best information, hands down, on how to do this business. And our goal is to be unmatched. And one of the ways we do that is we provide you guys with as much information as you need here on these videos. For everybody below, we give away some of our best stuff, which is the ABCs of tax lien and deed investing to get you started. And then from there, if somebody wants extra help, like maybe we could build you an AI or you want some mentoring, we'll build you a free blueprint as far as where to get started. And then from there, if you want to work with us one-on-one or come join us at an auction, we can explore that possibility. If that's something you want to do. But really, one of the best ways to have an impact on the world is to take care of yourself. Allow yourself to make some money in real estate. When you become free from your job, you can give back, do things for your family, your church. And one of the sayings we have is we want to leave the kids deeds, not debts, which is a big reason to get into this. So let's see. Boom. We'll look at some of your questions. For anybody joining us, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up here as well. Boom. We have some questions in the mix. If we miss your question, bear with us. Maybe ask it again. Let's see. Somebody's saying we'll be fixing them personally. Okay, good stuff. And from here, how do you safely review a parcel that does not have an exact address? Excellent. Somebody mentioned foreclose in 3 years. This is in a tax lien state. So for example, in Arizona, you get to foreclose after 3 years on the tax lien. So you get an interest rate in Arizona of up to 16%. But in the tax lien state, and this is some pretty big potential here as far as that goes, because it could be a $20 tax lien on a $5,000 piece of land, and then you can foreclose on it. Or it could be a $200,000 house with a $4,000 tax lien, pay out the other years, and you can get some really good properties. So remember, in a tax lien state, you're basically the bank. You're lending the government money. They pay you back with an interest. We talk a lot about tax deeds, and this is where you get the property that day and you can flip it quickly. Somebody's saying they spent 2 days driving property. Perfect. And then found this live on the lunch. Awesome. You are in the mix.
Nice.
That is awesome. Trenton, New Jersey. Guys, New Jersey is not one of our favorite places.
Yeah.
New Jersey is a tax lien state. They do weird bidding there. And it's better go to Philly, go to New York. It's just, Josh, can you summarize real quick why you don't like New Jersey?
Yeah, we don't like New Jersey because it's a tax lien state where you have to bid beyond the opening bid, which is the taxes. And so sometimes you bid down the interest. I guess it can be a bit confusing, but what I'm essentially trying to say is that you have to bid beyond the opening bid a lot of times. And you'll find that there's not as much competition there, which is the way to win. But oftentimes we'll just say to people, go work in Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania has got so many good deals. We've talked about repository sales or repository lists where you can buy stuff for $150, $250. That's where Calvin got his mobile home, made the 15 grand. And so that's usually what we would recommend.
We can do it low risk. You can get an over-the-counter property for a couple $100 that could be worth a couple $1,000s. Very simple. Crack open the deed directory. Just call them up. Say, for example, we are in the state of Maine. All you got to do, call them up, the phone number, maybe Waldo County. That's pretty good. Where's Waldo County? 207-338-3282, and ask them, when was the tax deed sale? Is there anything left? Can I get that list? Start looking at the list. And this is in the description below for everybody as well for free. And several of you guys have asked for some help perhaps during this. So if you want us to just show you where to go to save you some time, we'll build you a free tax deed freedom blueprint where we'll just take our information and show you 7 or 8 counties that will match your criteria. So just book a free call below. It'll show you what to avoid in those states, and we'll use our internal system to just go show you how to do it. And then if you want some help doing this, we can discuss that as well. So on that note, guys, let's get to it. Let's come back tomorrow. And we appreciate everybody hopping on. We'll see you soon.